Okay, hello again. For this video, we're still talking about Act 1 of M. Butterfly, but I want to focus now on the role of Madame Butterfly, the old opera, and what the play is trying to show us about art and, how it can influence us in the role that it plays. And there's definitely going to be some connection and overlap here with the other video I did about stereotypes, because part of the thing I think that they're trying to tell us is that one of the places that stereotypes come from is from art, right? So, Madame Butterfly first gets mentioned on page 10 when Gallimard kind of sets up that, what happened to him, that the story of him and song in China in the 1960s, that basically the way he understands it is through the lens of what he says is his favorite opera, Madame Butterfly by Giacomo Puccini. So he describes Butterfly from the opera as a feminine ideal. Uh, and then he goes on to kind of connect himself with Pinkerton, the main character from Madame Butterfly, and his friend Mark with Sharpless, who we learn is like the consul, is basically Pinkerton's friend who is like much nicer and kinder and kind of telling him like, hey, are you sure you should do this? Um, so maybe we should just pause here because kind of what's being implied is that Gallimard is like equivalent to Pinkerton, Mark is equivalent to Sharpless, and then Song would be equivalent to Butterfly. So I just want to pause on this and think like, do the characters in the play, do they really parallel these characters from Madame Butterfly? And I don't think that they really do, or if they do, it's kind of only superficially. So what we know about Pinkerton from Madame Butterfly, he's American. He's a cad, which is a word they use a couple of times, which just means like a womanizer, a guy who sleeps around basically. He's a cad, and he's like kind of mean, right, and not really caring about other people. Pretty selfish, I would say. So how does that compare to Gallimard? Well, first of all, Gallimard is French and not American. And at least before the scene when he's when he stops responding to Song's letters and he is intentionally trying to hurt her, I think before that we could say that Gallimard is more compassionate. Like if we go to the scene when he's in college and Mark is trying to get him to go to this crazy party, Gallimard seems worried about, well, I don't want to hurt anybody, I don't want to do anything that somebody doesn't want me to do. So he seems a lot more compassionate in that kind of way, especially compared to his friend Mark. At least, when we look at the flashbacks to his childhood and stuff. Whereas Mark, we know, is definitely less compassionate. Mark talks about how he started cheating on his wife 6 months into their marriage. Even, I think he talks about having slept with like 3,000 women or something like that, something insane. Um, so I think we can see that Mark is much more this cad or womanizer kind of character, right? Whereas the character that he's supposed to be aligned with, Sharpless, um, I think Gallimard describes Sharpless as being kind and compassionate, So really, and I guess this comes into play at the end, at the bottom of page 11. Gallimard ends the kind of retelling of Madame Butterfly by saying, in the preceding scene, I played Pinkerton, the womanizing cad, and my friend Mark from school played Sharpless, the sensitive soul of reason. In real life, however, our positions were usually, no always, reversed. So he's basically admitting here that the structure from Madame Butterfly can't really be applied to his experiences and what he went through. Because he admits at the bottom of it that actually his friend Mark is a lot more like Pinkerton and that he himself is a lot more like Sharpless. So let's go to the last part of this, which is Song being similar to Butterfly. So Butterfly in Madame Butterfly is Japanese, and she's also, I think, generally more submissive in that she, I think, does love Pinkerton and kind of accepts that he has purchased her, and she's happy to be his wife, kind of, is at least the impression that I get. Whereas Song is Chinese and not Japanese, And I want to look at the part where, she kind of makes fun of Gallimard for even like confusing her for someone who could be Japanese. And like I said in the other video, she's also much more aggressive. She's also much more outspoken and political, and yeah, can fend for herself seemingly. So I think we have to question like why Gallimard is trying to compare his situation to Madame Butterfly when if we look at the characters, well, not even the countries that they're from link up, you know? Like I think it speaks to the kind of view that Gallimard has as European, that he just kind of lumps in Japan and China as like being the same, but he also kind of lumps in France with America. So maybe that's why they try to talk about like East and West, and we'll talk more about those kind of stereotypes going forward. Um, so yeah, that's how we see the play coming in, is that Gallimard is seems convinced or like determined to see his own life in terms of his favorite opera, Madame Butterfly, even though the facts don't seem to align that clearly. I think this is still something that affects his behavior a lot throughout the play. So let's go now to I think page 18. So this is the conversation. All right, so this is right after Song is playing Madame Butterfly, right? And after she finishes, she talks to Gallimard and he's complimenting her that he liked her performance or whatever. Um, Gallimard says he says that he believed her acting, and he says you were utterly convincing. Song responds, convincing. As a Japanese woman, the Japanese use hundreds of our people for medical experiments during the war, but I gather such an irony is lost on you. So that song being like, how could you possibly mix me up with a Japanese person? I'm definitely not Japanese. Um, yeah, so Galmar goes on. He says, no, I was about to say it's the first time I've seen the beauty of the story. So if you guys remember from one of my videos last week, I was trying to, explain the plot of Madame Butterfly, and at the end of it, I was trying to explain how people that like one of the problems with the play is that people read it as being a beautiful story, as uh, uh, not something that was critiquing the kind of colonialism that makes a story like that possible, but kind of romanticizing it. So we get that view here from Gallimard, where he talks about how beautiful the story was. He goes on, of her death, it's a pure sacrifice. He's unworthy, but what can she do? She loves him so much. It's a very beautiful story. Song, well, yes, to a Westerner. It's one of your favorite fantasies, isn't it? The submissive Oriental woman and the cruel white man. So I think all of this stuff relates a lot to the stuff about stereotypes and also to what's going on with Madame Butterfly here. Because she talks about this being one of his favorite fantasies, and I think that there's a connection between art and fantasy, especially like movies or plays and stuff. Because I think that's kind of what they're acting out. And yeah, she's basically saying the only reason you think that this is beautiful is because it's a Japanese woman and an American man. She goes on, consider it this way. What would you say if a blonde homecoming queen fell in love with a short Japanese businessman? He treats her cruelly, then goes home for 3 years, during which time she prays to his picture and turns down marriage from a young Kennedy. Then, when she learns he has remarried, she kills herself. Now, I believe you would consider this girl to be a deranged idiot, correct? Because it's an Oriental who kills herself for a Westerner, you find it beautiful. So that's kind of savagely making your point there, right? She totally torches Gallimard by saying, yeah, the only reason you think this is beautiful is because you can't look beyond the stereotypes to see that this would be like a real person taking their own life because of the cruel and non-compassionate actions of somebody else. So when she flips it around and she makes it a white woman and a Japanese man, Gallimard says, "Well, yes, well, I see your point." Um, yeah, so I think that exchange also shows us like, yeah, it goes back to Madame Butterfly as kind of this like central text containing all the stereotypes that Gallimard wishes that he could live, all the things that he never lived up to growing up or even throughout college or really even to this point in his life until 1960, even though he's married and stuff. I still think that he wishes he could be what he sees in that play, but he has never been. And yeah, so Song really kind of lays it out there. So I think that this play really wants us to see how art can kind of like set our expectations of what the world is supposed to be like, you know? I think I mentioned this in another video, but if you think about something like movies about college, if you think of Van Wilder or American Pie or How High or, any of these college movies, I think that they do set an expectation that college is just like partying all the time, or people just getting drunk and throwing things out of windows, or whatever it is. And it'd be very boring, I guess, if they showed you a bunch of people just like studying in a room, or a bunch of people like taking tests or sitting through a lecture. That'd be a boring movie, I guess. But at the same time, I do think that for most of us, when we're about to go to college, we do have a kind of particular image in our heads, that, as all of us have found out or will find out, it's not really true. That it can't possibly just be partying and hanging out and destroying stuff all the time. That you have to spend all these hours in class and studying and cramming for tests, and all of these things. And then, if you do go to one of these parties, it kind of sucks. At least my experience. Um, so yeah, I think that is the same kind of point that the author of M. Butterfly is trying to make about Madame Butterfly, where Madame Butterfly seems to have kind of set Gallimard's expectations for how he's supposed to be, and also for what he expects Song to be, and why he's so surprised when she like challenges him and tells him that he's just an imperialist, uh, and all this kind of stuff. So I think that it's marking art as another place that stereotypes come from, uh, and yeah, also kind of showing us how like influenced Gallimard was by this, and as we go on with the play, I think this will be even more evident how he's been kind of blinded to reality by these stereotypes that largely came to him via a piece of art. So if you think of what that what the message there is, both about stereotypes and about art. So I think another place that we see Madame Butterfly kind of play a really big role is once Gallimard, once Song, starts acting more damsel in distress like, and once Gallimard starts acting more like the tough guy, the Madame Butterfly stuff comes back. So like on page 28, this is when they're in Song's apartment the first time. Um, Song says to him, she says, "You are a cad." And then he says, "What do you expect? I'm a foreign devil." So there we can see those are the words that have been used the whole time to describe Pinkerton, right? Cad, meaning a womanizer, and a foreign devil. So now we see the specific stereotypes that Gallimard is so obsessed with are like the very specific ones that come from Madame Butterfly. As here they even start using the language of it to talk about who he is now. And then in scene 11, when he stops talking to her, the only reason he does this is because of Madame Butterfly. Scene 11 starts off, "I determined to try an experiment. In Madame Butterfly, Cho-Cho-san fears that the Western man who catches a butterfly will pierce its heart with a needle and then leave it to perish. I began to wonder, had I too caught a butterfly who would writhe on the needle?" So he can't help but think about everything that's happening to him in terms of Madame Butterfly. And I think that's really the main point that I want to get to with this, just how insistent he is on seeing the events around him as being connected to this old opera, even when a lot of the facts seem to say, well, no, this is something totally different. But he really starts to play the role. And I think that's kind of the movement throughout Act One, with the stereotypes and also with Madame Butterfly, is that at the beginning of it, none of the people really fit into the roles or the stereotypes. But then as the play goes on, they kind of start to take on these roles, where now Song is calling Gallimard a cad, and he's saying, "Yes, I'm a foreign devil." When at the beginning, that's not something he would ever say, because he's just like a nice guy, you know? Um, so yeah, as Act One ends, we see them both. It's like, okay, well, maybe this is Madame Butterfly. Maybe Gallimard is going to be the cruel foreign devil who takes advantage of this more submissive woman. Um, and yeah, I think throughout the rest of the play, we'll see some of this stuff fall apart. But I think that's where we should leave it now. But I just want to make sure that you guys, as you're reading the play, are kind of tracking it in this sort of way, where you're thinking about, okay, what is this telling us about art? What does this show us about art? I think if nothing else, what we've seen is that it shows us that art is a place that can perpetuate stereotypes, that can create expectations that people then try to live up to. and what a problem that can be, whether you fit into them or not, you know? Because like I think what happens is that it doesn't really leave people any room to like be themselves. Because either you fit into the stereotype and then, you know, people feel good about themselves because they're like, look, I'm the thing. Yeah, that's right. I am whatever, the manly man or something. Or they go against it and they don't fit into it, and that can create problems. But either way, you're kind of responding to the already established stereotype, and there's not really any room to just be a normal person, you know, or to just be the person who you'd like to be. It's like we're always responding to the stereotype, either accepting it or rejecting it, or not fitting into it and feeling bad about that. So yeah, like I said, for our essays, we want to make sure that we keep it very specific in terms of what exactly is it telling us about where stereotypes come from and how they can hurt us, and how does art play a role in that. All right, I think that's it for now, and we'll talk more about the play soon.